This is the first lesson of File Import Component Training. And in this lesson we're going to show how to define the import of an Excel spreadsheet. I've started a new project called File Import Component Training. We're going to start off with a new process grid. And we're going to call this Lesson 1, Excel Order Import. And the first one is defining the file import. This is going to go in a menu. It would be a transaction. Couple of different selections here. First off, we're going to select execute all rows so that once we do the file import and map it to an object, then we'll just execute everything in the grid. We're also going to include the data import process and show the transaction column. Now, because we select include the data import, this is a standard process grid. But the difference is I have a new tab. As soon as I clicked that button to add the data import, I picked up a new option in definitions. So we're going to add an import. And this Excel spreadsheet here, which is in Program Files WiSys project, is actually installed on every machine as an example, and just our standard contract and install. Now this spreadsheet has one tab. If I had multiple tabs, it would ask me which tab of that spreadsheet am I interested in. This is what the spreadsheet looks like. It has one tab. It's got a customer, location, carrier, arrival date, ship date. This was a spreadsheet that I received somewhere along the line as an example of something somebody wanted to do, and I populated it with demo data, which is why you have customer 901, 902, 903, and we have item numbers of demo bikes, a carrier of UPS, which is a ship via code of my system, item description, quantities, item prices, everything I need to do in order import. Note that there's a change in customer if this is sorted by customer, and I would like to start an order and group orders and lines together by customer. That would be the intent. So coming back over here, we're going to say OK to that. And we're going to give the import a name. Now I can have multiple imports defined here. I've defined one, and I have to give them all a unique name on this particular sheet. And I have to give it a table name, and we're going to call it order import. That's the table it's going to be created as. And then we need to come up with a default file location, which I'm going to make back to Program Files, where I've got the sheet WiSys, and then the project folder. And that's where it will browse for the import of that sheet. If it was probably incoming, an incoming document, the file name can be different every time. But the schema will have to match. So I can preview that. It looks just like the spreadsheet. And then I can either create the table with the data incoming or just create the table. Because I want to show the import, I'm just going to create the table. Order import already exists. You want to recreate it. That is true because I'd already done that before. So now we need to, this is the way it works. We've created an order import table. And as it said, it was already there, but it's there again. Would have been put there the first time. And it has all the fields that are in that table, and added two more. One, it's added an ID column, which is really important, and I'll explain that later when we map objects. And there's another column that says is processed, because we're going to continue to bring data into this table, and we're going to process that data. So this table actually acts as like an audit trail, and will only be then processing rows that aren't processed. So if we say here, where is processed is null, then we'll only do orders. We'll only be looking at new lines coming in. And we'll do this order by the customer. Another thing that we're going to do here, and we have to do it if we're going to mark the as processed, because we have a stored procedure that is in the system that would allow us to pass a table name to a stored procedure, and then we'll automatically mark the as processed columns for that table so that you never have to recreate that on your own. So we're going to pass the order import as table name as an additional thing that we're going to do. I need to close up that. Okay. So there's nothing in this table. It's empty. Has an ID in it at the top, the table name at the beginning, and he is processed at the end. Otherwise, it looks like the spreadsheet. So there's not going to be any filters on this, but we are going to need a button. And we're going to create a button called import. And another thing that happened with the process grid that's unique now that we added the data import. Normally, you would only have agility component plugin and transaction report. Now we have another option on the drop-down list, data import. And this name is the name I gave the import. That's why I said you could have multiple buttons. So that if I had multiple imports, I just called it import. And that's why there's only one drop-down option. So now we can go ahead and run this import. And when I click import, I could actually drag and drop a file into the import zone, or I can browse for that file. And it's going to go to the default directory that I gave it. And the table comes back fully populated. So now we need to move on. This is the end of this lesson, and we'll move on with how we can map this data to an object. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video tutorial, and I encourage you to move on to the next video tutorial in this series.